Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I am Reverend Wendy Silvers, and you have arrived at the Awakened Mother Show, not by accident. There is that something within you that brought you here with us today. And so I welcome you into this loving space. It is a space of uncensorship where every dialogue is with moms, experts, leading edge speakers and teachers that speak to all that can support the awakening of mothers' hearts and others' hearts. And so I just invite you to join us, sit back, and enjoy the show. I'm really thrilled to share with you my guest today, Joy Bufalini, and Joy is the creator of the Simplify to Multiply method, which helps women scale their businesses by focus. In her 11 years as an entrepreneur, she's been featured in both O and Entrepreneur magazine as a business coaching expert. She's known for her warm but no-fluff approach to helping women do their business in the world. Even while raising her daughter with multiple disabilities, Joy has built a robust 7-figure business. And it's done because she has this very simple and scalable focus. So welcome, Joy, to the Awakened Mother Show.
What an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, Wendy.
Oh, it is my joy. I remember when I was introduced to you, and I couldn't wait to speak with you because there's an authenticity and a heart-centeredness to you that's so genuine. So I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you. Excited to share a little more backstory because it wasn't always that way.
Yes, please. Let's dive in.
Dive right in.
Like share with us. Yeah.
Totally. I think when we're all, let's say, little girls or growing up little girls, we have this idea of like what that picture perfect life is going to look like, right? And I met the man I was going to marry when I was 13, although I didn't know he was the man I was going to marry. He was like my best friend. Secretly, he was always in love with me, I guess. And, we went to college, married my high school sweetheart. I became a teacher, which is what I always wanted to do. I always loved to teach and help people. Like everything's mapping out perfectly as planned. Year 5 into marriage, I'm pregnant with twins, like the dream, fabulous, boy, girl twins. And, my plan was always, I have a couple kids, go back to teaching, sweet, neat life, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to give a little background to this, I had grown up and was still at the time I had my twins, a very deep-seated religious background that was full of a lot of rules and a lot of not being awake. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it because I wasn't awake.
Right.
Very much in that world of like safe and secure, and this is truth, and this is your role in the world, and don't question anything. Well, in 2000, when our twins were born, they were born 10 weeks early. And I had severe preeclampsia. I almost didn't make it, unbeknownst to me, till like a few weeks later, because I was really out of it. It came upon me suddenly, and my twins had to be delivered via C-section suddenly. And unfortunately, my daughter, Amber, Anthony is her twin brother, Amber and Anthony, our A's here. She suffered brain damage as a result of that preeclampsia and early birth. And life was turned upside down. Like suddenly we were in this whole world talking to neurosurgeons and, developmental specialists and getting MRIs and brain surgeries, like 5 of them in the first 2 years of her life, calling 911 because her shunts would fail. She had 4 of them.
Oh my goodness.
To keep the fluid moving in her head. So like suddenly I was in this whole new world. Life had been so simple and predictable and in a nice, neat box. And suddenly I was thrown into this. And one thing I didn't realize is I really did not have the emotional capacity or skills to manage this emotionally. I never learned them, right? I'd never had to face anything really big up into that point. So through a series of events, by the time we got to 2007, I was basically in nervous breakdown mode and didn't know it till I got to that point. That being an overachiever, being a teacher, I did all the research, all the therapies, questioned all the doctors. And that was the first time I started questioning, quote, quote, authority too, which was really healthy for me to do. When a doctor says to you about your 2-year-old that you probably should just consider institutionalizing her because she's not going to be able to walk or talk, she's going to require 24/7 care. And like, there was a mama bear inside of me that suddenly like, what?
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And so that's when I started thinking for myself. That was the first, like, starting to question things. But it really took until about 2000. That was about 2002. It took till about 2007. Again, just more like sometimes survival mode and doing the best I could. And I had another baby, thankfully, just a regular, no additional challenges. And, he's our sweetheart as well. But by 2007, I was so spent. Like, I couldn't get out of the rain. Like, I'd sit out in the rain. I couldn't get myself up. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" No, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I started to have, all kind of unexplained pain issues and chronic migraines. And I started feeling like an old woman, and I was in my early 30s. So, that sent me temporarily down the road of Western medicine to figure out what's wrong with me, only to be frustrated by pills and no diagnoses and no answers. And nobody really seemed to care because they couldn't see anything on a scan. Right. So I think probably a lot of people listening can relate to that, of like, when you're up against the medical system in multiple different ways and you need answers, and, you're really like at that point where you want to figure things out. So there's a whole story around like why I had those pain issues, but I realized after going alternative medicine and like, I did all the supplements and I did all the things, and I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on treatments and I was open. So this was good for me because I was open to thinking outside the box and researching, and I learned a lot. And I also started changing how my view on God was, because I got to tell you, in 2007, I wasn't too happy with God.
Gee.
Now, if you want to chime in on that at all, like how that happens when, you don't have a good strong base of your foundation of the divine, and bad things happen. And if you have a context of, you probably did something to deserve that, you don't realize at what an emotional level that starts to wear you down. You're not even cognizant of it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just any of it, because you're brought to your knees. I mean, you're literally brought to your knees, even though, I often say this quote by Rumi, that when the world brings you to your knees, you're in a perfect position to pray. And there's a sense of hopelessness sometimes. I mean, when you're dealing with something as profound as what you're dealing with day in and day out in the trenches, this is like, it's not, you don't get a break from it. It really does wear you down, and it really does impact,
Absolutely.
your moods, your perceptions, it really brings you to what do I believe. And I went through a similar experience with a health issue, but please continue.
Yes, absolutely. And, a health crisis can really cause you to question things. Then, of course, Amber, she's 7 years old in 2007. And it suddenly hit me like, we didn't do any of the normal mother-daughter stuff. Like, we're like medical survival, changing diapers, can she say a word or two? Can we get her to take a few steps with crutches? Well, everybody else is going to birthday parties.
Yeah.
They had this moment. So it was all kind of coming together, of course, at the same time of like, kind of, whoa, wait a second. Like, is this how life's going to be for her? And I didn't realize until I started doing my own healing work and started really, like, you know what, this is on me. I can't be dependent on anyone outside of me. This is my journey to own, and not a doctor or a therapist or a religion or anything, like, this is my life here. So I think starting to realize somewhere along the way, I just read enough books. Like, I didn't even know the whole world of personal development existed till about 2007. Like, what what's all this? And I learned about every religion and all of these things that just started me to try to find, where's my center at? Where do I land with all of this? And, of course, at the same time, you don't mention to family that you're questioning everything to your parents, who like expect you to turn out a certain way and don't know that you're really going through a hard time. And it really causes you to question things. So really during that time, like I realized I needed to go through a grieving process too.
Exactly.
Oh, she didn't die. She was going to die multiple times in her first 2 years. She didn't die. She's here alive with us, but there's still grieving that needed to happen. So once I started like opening my mind and I started allowing myself to like, it's okay, because nobody else was telling me this. No one else around me, except my husband, who was getting on board, really had any emotional awareness to kind of counsel me or tutor me, because I just wasn't in those circles at that time. I just feel so fortunate for the internet that literally like the world suddenly became my oyster of like, I was just soaking it all in. Like I'm going to make this mean something, in our life. So I did a lot of healing, and through this healing work, and it was lots and lots of journaling. Yeah. You said the word uncensored when this podcast started, and I was like, oh, yes. Like I had to go to that uncensored place of really dismantling all the beliefs that weren't serving me and that were actually harming me. And what did I really believe? And even a lot of like, go back to things like, oh, what about that doctor that dismissed us when I said I had a symptom? He told me to come in the next morning. And then I suddenly had an emergency because they dismissed me, and said, oh no, your husband probably read your blood pressure wrong. Just come in the morning. What if, right? So I had to go to all those places and really do that forgiveness and that healing. And honestly, why wasn't that something I was taught in church all those years?
Exactly.
And I really didn't have a bitterness towards it. It just was a neutral, like, why wasn't this the natural thing to do? Interesting,
Yeah.
So really like moving into this space of like what I actually believe God is, and love, and not judgment, and not guilt, and not heaviness. And like Amber's been the best gift ever, because our whole life has turned a different direction. By 2011, I was starting my own coaching business because I wanted like, oh, of course, like teaching, I'm never going to go back to that. This is the perfect, next step profession for me to help people be able to be at home, be able to continue grow and, and learn as I go. So that just really, I think it's sometimes uncensoring what's in here, because we censor it because I can't say that. I can't think that. That's too, that doesn't sound like very nice girl things to feel.
Oh my goodness, that nice good girl thing. Oh.
And when your name is Joy and you've grown up in church,
yes,
people expect you to be positive. People expect you to be the nice girl. And I totally played that role to a T until it burnt me down.
Yeah.
So being a mother was definitely the awakening. It was the beginning of the awakening, and it was such an opportunity, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. I would not have changed a thing, but
that is amazing.
And what it's been able to do, through my husband and I now running the business together, being able to work together. So it also enabled us to navigate, 2020 and 2021, being home together with Amber, that we can navigate that together, while I'm the face of the business running things, that we just had all those things established, So it's one of those things where you're kind of like, who's that? What's that? What happened? Yeah. Well, but it was a long journey. It was a long journey, and it still is, So even now, like accepting Amber as a 22-year-old and like as an adult who's the same size as me, right? Of like, she's an adult. She's not a little girl anymore, and there's these different levels of acceptance and, and being okay with like, this is who she's meant to be. And yes, she'll be like this for the next 50 years. And that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What a journey. What a journey. You've lived a couple of lifetimes in this particular lifetime.
You're exactly right. I really feel like I do.
Yeah.
That there's several lifetimes left, and there's more to be lived, which is really exciting, because this is beyond just me being a business coach. I'm now expanding into some other areas of service that are really exciting as well.
Can you say more about that?
Sure. Well, I'm doing more speaking on my healing journey and different aspects of that. So having these opportunities to talk about this. And I also now run a Facebook group for moms that have a child with a mental, physical, or emotional or health diagnosis. About 130 women. That's my passion project. I just ran that call yesterday. And just them being seen and heard and understood. And they have entrepreneurial ambitions or already have, a bit of a business established. So it's been neat to kind of be in a place where I don't have to fix anything. I was always in that. I have to fix Amber, I have to help her. I have to save her. I mean, what a load of responsibility. There is a lot of responsibility as a mom, whether you have a child with extra needs or not, right? We take on so much responsibility on ourselves, but I think if we can give our permission for ourselves to be who we are here meant to be and not be always perpetually mother in every role in every moment. It's really healthy as well too.
Yes, it's so wonderful that you're doing that. And it's so true what you're saying. I think about that a lot, especially since somehow I wrote about it this morning. Somehow I ended up being a mothering coach and working with mothers and parents. And it was never ever on my radar. I'm a minister and I've been a spiritual counselor for decades and a speaker. And so my desire is really to help people heal their generational wounds.
Yes.
So they can be more present, they can really have more fulfilling lives and be better parents, right? Or whatever it is where they're showing up. So Absolutely. I appreciate what you're saying, because I do know a lot of parents whose kids have been injured. And so they take their kids into the doctor and then they leave a different way and their lives are never, ever the same.
Yes.
And that becomes a whole another way of being. It's like a dimension of your being, a facet of your being gets activated and you're in this, and it's heavy. It's a day. I mean, it's not something that you can shut off and go, okay, I just need 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go off. I could do that. I'm just going to take the dog for a walk. It's a whole different experience. And what I appreciate so much about what you're saying is you're not denying what occurred, but you found a way to heal and to reconnect with the authentic parts of yourself, and then create a business that allows you personal freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. And now you're paying, you've been doing that, but you're offering that to other women.
Absolutely. And I am really passionate about just giving women hope and to really stay with it. I am fortunate to have my husband on the same page. I sort of pulled him along until he was like, all right, because men like to be logical oftentimes, not to stereotype, but religion and all of that. It's logical, it's predictable, it's knowable, right? When you get into this, is more into the feeling more of self-awareness and feeling. And, I'm so glad he's been able to come on board. But a lot of women are on this journey on their own, right? Whether they're, not married anymore or their partner is just whatever, and to really find your people that you can talk with, you can share with, to fill your mind with. I think that was a big part of it. It's I was filling my mind, kind of immersing myself, in things that were going to lift me up, in things that were going to give me a sense of purpose, even when, because my daughter Amber is nonverbal, she often communicates with behaviors. So she has cerebral palsy as her primary diagnosis, which means, from her waist down, things aren't really moving much, but it also affects her communication. But her upper body's strong, stronger than me, which means I might get hit, I might get bit, I might get pinched, because that's her communication, And so there were days where I'd just be getting her ready for school and Brian would help, take her wheelchair out to the bus. And I have to be on a coaching call in 15 minutes and I'd be crying. I'd be oh my gosh, I got bit and I got pinched and she was upset and we did not have a good morning. How do I turn this around? And just it's a resilience as a muscle that you build, and sometimes there's a healthy, I can't deal with that right now, and it's going to be okay. And I will deal with that.
Right.
My challenges in years back was I stuffed everything down.
Yes.
Never to look at it, right? Not how do I feel? Oh, that was a rough morning. I need to feel that. Or I'm worried about, my child's future. I need to feel that, So like allowing ourselves to feel it. Sometimes it can't be in the moment. We have to pull ourselves together temporarily. But I mean, just to be real, that was in the last 2 years where I was crying before coaching calls. That was not 10 years back, So I think it's important for us to be authentic, and it's still a journey, as life happens or things happen. 3 things, and I wrote them down. I know them, but I just wanted to say them right. That Amber told to me. I was actually under hypnotherapy. So that was part of my process of waking up. I learned about hypnotherapy. And so okay, we got to get to the unconscious mind. Okay. All right. I'll do this. So I get to the hypnotherapist's office, and my first experience, and she starts talking, me into the state. It was the first time ever. And I knew I was kind of resistant, but I had no idea how much until I passed out right on the floor in front of her.
Wow.
And she was like, are you okay? Are you okay? I know what that was. That was resistance. I was just so afraid of what I was going to see under the hood. She said, I've never had that happen in 20 years. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes. I think it's even more important that we do this. And in that very first hypnotherapy session, she, this is sort of typical with hypnotherapy, bring in a spirit guide to give you wisdom, give you guidance.
Yes.
Of course, it was my daughter, Amber,
Aww.
standing there. And she told me these 3 things. And I think it's really relevant to our conversation, because I literally went outside the therapist's office afterwards. I wrote them down on a piece of paper in my calendar. I can't forget these 3 things.
That's beautiful.
So so she's communicated to us through the years. And this again was probably 2008 or 9. Enjoy the simple things of life like I do. So Amber's brain is kind of perpetually at an 18-month-old level. So if you think about that, an 18-month-old is very present. They're very about the simple little things, they're toddling around and checking things out, but they're very, very present. And she has this gift of presence, of just whatever's going on in front of her, that's where she's at. She's not thinking of the future. She's not thinking of the past. What a gift, what a gift that is. So, and also, my brand is simplify to multiply. And I've actually brought this into my business. Wait, Amber's telling me my business strategy, keep it simple, mom. That came a little later on, which is so neat. There's such a beauty in simplicity. And really, she has that gift of things not being complicated. The second thing she said was, nothing matters but the now. Again, that presence.
So and profound
about the future. I know. I'm okay, thank you, Eckhart Tolle, Amber. Anyway, so, just that wisdom that's there, and then love everyone unconditionally. I don't know where that one came from. I felt then, why did she say that to me? And I really understood that later, when I started moving away more obviously from, my old identity into a new identity. Not everybody understands that. And some people won't like that and won't be comfortable with that. Or, just loving everybody unconditional means that, you're going to just let them be who they are and where they're at, even if they don't get what you're doing. And there's a lot of layers to that. But Amber loves everybody unconditionally too. It doesn't matter what you look like or how old or what color you are or anything. She always does this, and if she has a little BS radar, though, she knows, if she doesn't like something about someone. I've seen her do this to a few doctors. Matter of fact, one of them, she literally knocked on the ground unexpectedly. She can do a shove or whatever. And he just got too close too soon. And boing, this little intern is on the ground. I was like, you got to laugh anyway, but love everyone unconditionally, just that presence of not having, judgment or that sort of jaded view of people, she just, oh, hi, who are you? How are you?
I mean, when you think about it, if she's always at an 18-month-old
emotional maturity level.
Emotional maturity, I'm 18-month-old children. I mean, that's the whole thing about what we see out picturing in the world, the racism and the divisiveness or divisiveness, depending on who's saying it. When you feel that an 18-month-old doesn't, like you said, they don't they're not thinking that way. They're like, oh, I like you, or no, I don't want to be. It's all
Exactly.
energy.
Is.
It's not a whole thing. So love everybody unconditionally. What a profound,
Of course you said that.
that would be such a great book, Joy.
Mm, well,
Such 3 simple.
got something percolating.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a really, and your business, what I really appreciate, because I remember our mutual friend, Jenny, had introduced me to you, and I remembered how much I appreciated the same level of genuine accessibility. Like, you're very accessible because you're so honest, and you're not, there's nothing, there's not, and you know how you meet people and they say, oh, I really care about you, and really, but you can feel like behind everything there's something going on. And that's not you. When you are present, you show up in the Facebook group, you ask the question, you offer this, you do your videos, and so I would love to hear your progression from how Simplified and Multiply occurred in such a profound way for you that you now have a 7-figure business.
Thank you for asking. Yes. And when you were saying about that honestness, like I can't imagine being another way, but I know what shifted, because when I first read the book, The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer, that I latched onto that, like, he is speaking to me. And I think it came out in 2011, maybe, or 13, something like that. It was just, I'd read a lot of other books, but that one, and just some really simple analogies about having a closed heart, which I had for years. I thought I had a big open heart. I kind of did when I was younger and kind of untainted by certain things, the rest was kind of all fake. But once you can learn to open your, it was, just being honest, a lot of it was fake. you just fake it until you make it, right? And that does not work. You don't make it, actually. But when I think it was that heart opening, that it's a process of being aware of, that it can really just be a part of naturally being you, where you're not closed off to things, you're open to whatever comes. And I don't know if it's just in doing enough work, doing enough paying attention, or having enough life stuff come at you that you're just like, all right, bring it on. I mean, there's other things that I could share that aren't even a part of the story that you said a couple lifetimes, like, I did more than one lifetime worth of stuff. But I think if we can come at it with an open heart and get out of our head and into our heart, that we can be present with that person. And again, I credit Amber with this gift. Like, when Amber turned 20, this was what my husband Brian said: Amber's been our coach for 20 years.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, did you just say that? Because that was like, true words could not be spoken. So she has really been our spiritual guide. So I feel like my open heart, and I've had to be willing for it, is really her open heart.
Wow.
Right.
Well, apropos to what you're saying, what occurs to me is that I don't detect a shred of victimization in what you're sharing. And there are people that might feel extremely victimized by the circumstances, but I don't. And you may have evolved through that. I
definitely went through that. Yes. I think it's kind of part of the grieving process. If you go through the whole process, you got to go through the blame process. So you blame God, you blame your parents, you blame the doctor, you blame whatever, you blame the prenatal vitamins you didn't take every day, whatever. You can just anything, but you get a choice whether you stay there. You need to be there for a little bit and go through all the stuff. So it felt too icky, and truthfully, like that quote of Rumi, like when you're on your knees, like I was on my knees, in a lot of areas, that it's a gift if the universe kind of lets your back go up against the wall like that, where like, all right, I'm here for the journey. What's next? It doesn't feel like it in the moment. It doesn't. It feels like a roller coaster. It sometimes feels like headaches. It sometimes feels like you just want to go back to bed, and that's it's kind of normal. A little bit of like the low vibe energy. When I stopped faking it, then that became apparent. Like there was some low vibe, sadness underneath of there. So I think, if you're feeling that sort of blaming, angry, it's okay to feel it, throw something, scream something, do that uncensored journaling. It's important to feel all of that and let it come through. And you can move through that phase. You can get out of that victim mentality and really get on the other side of now purpose. And, you know, what do I make of this?
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And so out of that emerged this light bulb moment of, I want to work from home. Yep. And so I heard you say Anthony with Anthony. Did Anthony, did he make it?
Yes, he did. So he made it through school, you know, with some learning challenges. So he was always getting tutoring and extra things and extra, you know, attention from teachers. So there was always extra there. But yes, he's doing well now, and I'm grateful for that. Still needs a little more extra support than the average 22-year-old, but you know, we're really proud of who he's become. And honestly, again, like when you have a sister or a sibling that has extra needs, you know, I can see both of my boys, like they have this empathy, they have this understanding, you know, of people that a lot of people don't get to experience. So I consider, you know, a gift to our family for sure. So, you know, starting my own business definitely gave me that freedom and that flexibility to be home and to start being of service. And I have to say, like, I was in this mindset life coaching space and kind of moving to business strategy. And it's kind of interesting because I started in 2011. It was 2016. So 5 years had gone by. And again, this is not about making money, but I needed to start making some money. Like bills had piled up. I had paid for so many things out of pocket, all the extra things. Like our debt was like getting really heavy, and okay, I've got to make this business work, or I've got to go get a job. And that's like the last thing I wanted to do, because I've never made more than like 20,000 in a year, 20,000 a year. And that was even like if you included a little gig work I did for someone else. Anyway, so, but what I realized, like, when I kind of got my back up against the wall again, another like kind of defining moment, like, I've got to figure this out. There's no choice here. Like, you've got no wiggle room monetarily here. But what confused me was that I'm really good at strategy. Like, I had been Amber's case manager and managed all these therapies and all these things, and like notebooks full of things and project planning. I really was a rock star at that. Oh, and I was a math teacher for 4 years before that too.
Oh, wow.
I was really good at making complex things simple.
Yes.
Why am I struggling so much? And I realized it was really my own self-sabotage, my own like becoming and being, and I was making it hard and complicated. Plus, I bought into all of the like tech funnels, ads, like complicated business model. Like, this is the way you should grow a business. So I was like, okay, I'll do what you say. I'll do what you say. And frankly, I hated all that stuff. I hated it. I just wanted to help people. So I don't know how I quite figured it out, but in 2016, again, my husband and I had this conversation and threw a pillow across the room. And I'm like, I'm effing figuring this out. And that was really unusual for me to say back then. Not so much now. But anyway, he was like, okay, you know, and I went to my office and I wrote down 3 things. Like, I'm just going to do this. That's it. Right. And again, this isn't about the money, but it's about the power of simplicity.
Right.
I made $104,000 in 2017.
Wow.
How did I do that? Like,
what were those 3 things?
Was always there.
What were those 3 things?
Okay. The 3 things were, and again, this isn't necessarily a business conversation. I understand, but like, I kind of had a line in the sand with my pricing. Like, I'm charging this much and no lower, you know, for my coaching package. Like, so I put my prices up here. I'd been doing this for 5 years. I was not new. I had a lot of background experience, you know, for helping people. And I knew simple strategy, keep it simple. I know it was doable. Secondly, I started showing up consistently to my email list and to social media. Just show up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just keep showing up.
Right.
And then thirdly is actually, this sounds kind of, you know, small, but it actually made a big deal. It's like, actually talk about working with me, like talk about my program. Like, instead of me just being this likable expert that people started following and liking and commenting, engaging, like, okay, this is real. Well, you have to tell people, how they can work with you and what to do next. So that really changed things, where like people were booking calls with me, they were turning into, becoming clients. So I think that I had one package, just one way you could work with me, just consistent content and really staying on point with my simple message, keeping it simple message. And then that talking about it, and so that really took a big identity shift too, from being teacher to special needs mom to, okay, I'm a leader in the online space, like owning it before I was really felt that way.
I love that.
So it really did change everything. We continued multiplying and built team and all of that. And truthfully, I haven't changed that much since 2017, except now I just have a team to support my clients. And we have a little bit of tech, which thankfully my husband Brian manages and not me, which, we need for the volume. But it's Amber started the whole simple thing. And it was like, for my mindset, for my business, for my life, like,
Yes.
why am I making it so complicated? Why am I overthinking it? And not from a place of being hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's that we really can choose it. We can choose it. So that's where the multiplication of, yes, maybe it's money, or it's happiness, or it's sense of purpose, or it's, clarity and direction, like that opens things up when we really hone in, what we want and how we're going to do it.
Beautiful, Joy. It's so beautiful. Just your whole process. There's such a flow. And I know behind each of those, young woman in a very pious, religious, restricted religion, and marries, the high school sweetheart that you met when you were 30, like the whole thing, and the children and the special needs mom, then, all that whole trajectory. It's just really beautiful the way, because there's a flow, even though it didn't feel like that.
Thank you for reflecting.
I often say,
I can't see far back enough to see that like you
right.
can.
Well, it's interesting, because I often say to my clients that if you took a divine viewing point and you looked above at what happened in your life, not only does everything seem like it's all happening at once, but there's like this through line. You see the cosmic breadcrumbs that were there from each situation, but it's so difficult when you're in it. I know for me, when I'm in it, those moments I'm in it, it is an exercise or practice to step away from what I'm doing and have a divine viewing point. And so when you look at your life and all that you've been through to where you are today, you have so much to offer. And just the message of simplifying and then offering. I mean, I don't know where I got this message, but I got this message that it wasn't okay to talk about money. Like, it wasn't okay right? It wasn't okay to say, I can help you and I have a fee. Like, it was just this like, oh, yes, I really want to help you. And how can I help you? And well, my rate, oh, well, what can you do? And then it was like, okay, so don't I have bills? Don't I want to have and it was just that light bulb of giving myself permission.
Absolutely. It is so much about that. And you have to be able to give yourself that permission when you've done that internal work, like, it's okay. Right. You can allow yourself to be that person who says that or does that. And I think, oftentimes when we as women fear taking a step in a direction or making a decision or saying something, like that, it's usually about either identity, like we don't know ourselves as that person. We don't know that version of ourselves. Like, I didn't know a version of myself that made great money. That's for sure.
Right.
I had the teacher identity or like stay-at-home mom identity.
Or even your religious upbringing.
Totally. Like
the subliminal messages about cultural, religious messages about what does it mean if you go out there and you earn 7 figures? What does that mean? Who will you be? Who are you?
That's the integrity piece, right? Where I think sometimes we hold back because will this make me into like some sort of different person? Will this change me? Will I still be ethical? Will I still be in integrity? I know, like you said, from a background standpoint, when I can think of anybody I knew that had money, everybody was talking negatively about that relative. Like, oh, what kind of perceptions, did I put on that, and really it's just neutral. It's really, it's nothing. Being there now, it's nothing. I'm no different. Nobody's any different.
Exactly.
A little more opportunity, right?
Bigger issues, bigger things to, I often say that having that level of abundance and prosperity, it is a spiritual practice because you get to be the steward, and it is neutral.
It is.
It's an energy, it's neutral, and you get to be the steward of that.
Absolutely. I love how you said that. Absolutely. And so it's nothing to be afraid of, if you go in that direction, that's wonderful. And I have these wonderful women on my team who love serving my clients in addition to me. And we've built this sisterhood, this little family, it's a win for everybody, that we can create that. And, if abundance is just going to create more abundance, if you're coming at it from that, that mindset.
I agree. Well, I feel so filled up having this conversation with you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing so heartfully your journey.
Thank you. And honestly, I'm still watery-eyed a little bit. Like I feel like I'm feeling it at a level I haven't yet. That's going to do something from here. I can tell.
Good. Very good. Yay. So how
you.
can people find you? I'll make sure everything's in the show notes, of course, but do you want to say how people can find you?
Sure. Yes. So I'm online at simplifytomultiply.com. So simplify.multiply.com, or Facebook is my primary platform. If you want to send me a message, you don't have to be my Facebook friend to send me a message or anything. If you have a child with a diagnosis and you'd like to reach out, I'm getting on the phone in an hour with somebody, a friend of a friend, just to encourage and support her. So if you need a little encouragement or support, or you have a business and you want to reach out and just chat with me about it, send me a message. I welcome the conversation and encouraging and inspiring you wherever you're at when you're at that place that you're really ready to expand and make the next chapter real, whatever it looks like.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for being with us. I will make sure that you have all that you need to connect with Joy, and then stay tuned for our next episode. Please subscribe, follow, and share. And until next time, know that you are loved beyond description, powerful beyond measure, and a force for good in the world. So go forth and spread your magic. Peace and many blessings.